Good morning. It's Simon Clarke here from American Lithium. I'm the CEO, and I'm joined today by my colleague Laurence, Stefan, and he's president and COO of the company. So delighted to be here, Matt.
Good to see you, Charles. I couldn't help but call you up because you put out a rather large measured and indicated resource at Falchani, and I'm intrigued as to what next. So maybe give us some of the highlight of some of the numbers first, and we'll talk about what next.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kick off and then hand on to Laurence for some of the detail. But obviously, it's a huge increase to our measured and indicated resource. So a lot of reclassification that we're really excited about, and a major increase in the overall resource. So we're very excited, Matt. It definitely makes this project one of the largest hard rock projects globally. It's a different hard rock project in terms of we produce a battery grade carbonate through the flow sheet, carbonate of high purity that doesn't need to go offshore for refining and upgrading, which I think is more and more critical in today's world. So we're delighted with it. And from my perspective, it really shows, I think, some hard work and smart thinking from our team in Peru. As you know, during the previous regime, it was hard to get things permitted, and they recognized that by filing the EIA early, not only is that a critical piece of ultimate mine permitting, which is going to help us fast track that, but it also enabled us to drill for hydrological reasons. But at the same time, at a time when no development permits were being issued, we were able to take core and reclassify and expand the resource. And so, I think it's the culmination of a great process on that. We expect we'll see the EIA move forward quickly from here, which in the overall timeline of building a project ultimately is also really important. And, I'll hand over to Laurence to add his 2 cents, but for me, those are the critical pieces.
Thank you, Simon. You said the right things. It's true. Actually, we had to do something because under the previous government, the previous president, it was very difficult to obtain any type of exploration permits. And our problems are very simple. We can sit on our, shall I say, different parts of the body and doing nothing. And thank you very much, the shareholder, for a nice contribution to our monthly emoluments. Or we had to do something, and we have to reinvent ourselves. And we realized that it's somehow easier to tackle it from an environmental issue. So at the end of the day, any type of environmental impact assessment, as it's well stipulated in the name, it's about environment. And how can you do a type of engineering instruments one can use to make sure that when we have the mine in production, the damage towards the environment will be as little as possible. I wouldn't say zero, because when you make a hole in the ground, it's a problem, but you have to do it on a nice way. And you have to extract the value that Mother Earth gave to mankind, and we have to be very, very thankful for it, especially in these times when everybody talks about global warming and the effects of the society, modern society, against the planet, against our level of living at the end of the day. So look, at the end of what we've been able to do, we applied for an environmental impact assessment that allowed us actually to understand more about the evolution of the water in the area, and we can report to things quite happily. First of all, we realized that to the depth stipulated by the rules of regulations in Peru, we do not have water to a depth of almost 180 meters, because we requested initially you can drill for 100, we requested to extend it to 150, not because we wanted to be funny, but we didn't encounter any water. So it's very clear, and we have a plus minus 20%, and we extended some of the holes to 180 meters. According to the same positive regulations, and we realized there is no water. So as a result, whenever we'll have Falchani into production, the damage towards the hydrostatic and the underground water will be zero. When I'm saying that, it will probably be absolutely zero. But in the meantime, we were able to collect core, which allowed us to extend, because the position of the drillings were positioned by one of the most prestigious companies in the world, SRK. Everybody knows how important is developing new mines and understanding the effects that the mining can produce to the environment. And the combination between good results on the hydrological drilling and the core, we knew We knew that the ore body extends to the south and to extend to the west, but we didn't expect it to extend on that such a level, Not necessarily the surface. We knew that the fingerprints will extend quite a lot, and it's still open, by the way, both to the south and to the west, and a bit to the northwest. But the thickness of the ore body was absolutely fantastic. I call it an ore body. It's a mineralization because we don't have reserves, but to have an ore mineralization which is 200 to 150 meters extension from where we've been in the past, it's really something absolutely amazing. So that allows us to introduce a new resource. We've been able to extend not only... Look, you are not allowed at this hour of development to mix measured, indicated, and inferred resources. However, when we have about 5.2, 5.3 million tons of lithium carbonate in the measured and indicated, that shouldn't be any problem to push the project into pre-feasibility and feasibility, because you have mineralization to mine for about 55 years, that decently. But when you add together the inferred one, another 4, we have close to about 9.3 million tons. As Simon said, it's becoming one of the largest hard rock lithium concentrations in the world, And many people criticize that it's high altitude and everything. Look, those things are not important, and we'll discuss probably later during the presentation, because it's the size that does matter. And we know that Falchani, when you compare it with spodumene, with micas, and with other clay stones that we are very accustomed to it with our project in Tonopah in Nevada, it's very easy to process and produces a purity product which is battery or close to battery grade.
Right. So tell me this, Laurence. I'm going to just stick with you for a second. I'm glad you kind of brought the inferred resource component into this, because the headline is a 476% increase in measured and indicated. I assume that was just a case of moving the inferred up a category or two by what? I mean, what type of drilling were you doing to do that? Because I note that you also kind of lowered the cutoff grade as well. So how did you go about increasing it so violently?
Falchani probably was a bit unlucky because we discovered it at the end of 2000, on a Friday and 13th of November. You can't be worse, than that. So 2017, and we ran very fast. We did our best, but then COVID came. So COVID. Let's not talk about COVID. I think it was, let's not even revisit that subject, because it's painful for everybody. So the progress was very small. But however, we've been able to do a lot of technical lab work, things that we can do. We had a lot of samples. So what we've been able to do, because when we discovered the processing and the fact that it was so easy to process Falchani came after the resource was developed. So our consultants, they say, guys, listen, it's a beautiful resource, but because nobody processed something like that, lithium in tubes, we cannot give you measured and indicated. We should give you, but we cannot, because we don't know whether your processing is worthwhile. Definitely the processing demonstrated that it's much better than actually even spodumene. We have extraction of, almost 90% is not even spodumene that is able to achieve those high rates. So immediately when we started drilling, it was much easier for the new resource consultants. They moved the results of our drilling, most of the previous inferred into indicated and measured. However, most of the new inferred resource, it's new because we discovered the new targets and we've been able to extend it around the measured and the indicated. So what happened, why the numbers are so large? Because almost most of the initial resource, which is very little indicated, and most of the inferred moved into measured and indicated, allowing us to push the accelerator pedal on the pre-feasibility and feasibility studies and to transfer them into proven and probable reserves. And we had a lot of new inferred resource surrounding the existing measured and indicating on all the new discoveries towards south and the western side. And it's true, we have measured and indicated 4.5 times or a bit more than what we had in the past, but the resource globally, when you put everything together, and again, I shouldn't be allowed to do that, as for people to understand the magnitude of the project, we more than doubled it, which is almost 10 million. Look, I'd like to say something is not the case now, but in principle, between what we have in the United States and Tonopah in Nevada and in Peru, we have well above 20 million tons of lithium carbonate in resources in different categories, most of it being measured and indicated, making it probably the company with one of the higher level of resources on lithium, on hard rock anywhere on planet Earth.
Right. Okay. So it's big. And hard rock is coming back in fashion in North America, it seems. The Australians have always been at it, but in South America, it's been a case of brines. Now we're seeing hard rock appearing everywhere. Everyone wants to be a lithium company, it seems, in North America. So we've got a lot of pegmatite stories out there at the moment, lots of hard rock stories out there at the moment. You guys have got a head start, right? So Simon, how do you play this in this market? Because it feels to me, and I think there's a recognition by a lot of the lithium companies that it's kind of first mover advantage into this space. We don't necessarily need to talk about the supply demand fundamentals, but what I do want to talk about is markets that you can operate and play in, and how you get funding in place for projects like this, and the speed at which you move. So, how does this new resource change things for you, Simon?
Well, Matt, I think it's key. It shows we're making progress in Peru. Peru is historically a very strong mining jurisdiction. I think maybe some people questioned that over the last few years. And I think what we're seeing is, it takes time after, you move from one government where nothing was happening to one where things are opening up. But it's moving to a normalization of the sector, which we're really excited about. We've always seen Falchani as one of those projects that with capital and permitting can be moved very quickly towards production. In Peru, permitting a non-metal mine, and they deem lithium non-metal, is a 6-month process. In the US, even though we don't have any water table or cultural or environmental issues, we're still looking at 2 years at Tonopah. So, and again, we've fast-tracked this further by doing our EIA. So I think it's credibility for Falchani, it's credibility for Peru, it's credibility that we can drive this project forward quickly. Matt, I personally think there's a key. It's not really focused on at this time. I mean, everyone talks about swathes of Ontario and Quebec, where you can mine pegmatites and you can crush them and concentrate. And yes, that's all very good, but if you compare it to the oil sands in Canada, where no one ever put upgrading and refining in, the only approach was to pipe it to the southern US refineries. And there's a reason that WCS trades at $25 discount to WTI, because you're totally beholden to one marketplace. And so unless upgrading and refining comes on in Canada and the US, which there just is none today, all of these pegmatites you see in parts of North America are going to have to go offshore. So if you have a critical minerals policy that's trying to decouple from China, which controls things, and we've seen them this week start to weaponize the graphite supply. I mean, you've seen what they've done in that marketplace. If they do that in lithium, how does it make any sense to fund and send projects to China? So I think, Matt, this is why you're seeing the US government fund place-known projects, because they know, yes, there's a bunch of engineering because it's a dirtier leach than, say, Falchani or other things. But, as Jonathan Evans says at LAC, it's just engineering. You take the pieces out, you can produce a lithium product of high purity at a reasonable op cost, and it doesn't have to go to China for upgrading or refining. So I think the claystones, you've seen INEA get DOE funding. I'd be hugely surprised if Thacker Pass didn't, and there's a roadmap in the US for getting these projects funded at an early stage in the lithium cycle, where the banks maybe aren't providing the project financing that they do in more traditional established markets. I think as we move forward at Falchani, there's huge strategic interest in it. And, we're certainly well funded to take this through EIA and PFS, which is a huge advantage. And, we'll probably be looking at the right time for the right strategic involvement, to help with the large sums of capital that will be needed. But, as Laurence points out, Falchani has some of the best economics of any project on the planet. So, we're very confident in that.
Well, it's a monster in the making, Laurence, isn't it? Because you're showing this you've demonstrated the scalability of this. Now it's a question of moving obviously into the PFS. You're going to have to start demonstrating the technical merits and benefits of this deposit. So what's that going to look like in terms of timing, in terms of what your expectations are around the PFS?
First of all, it's not totally explored. We still have, I would say, with a bit of luck and based on some further study that we're just starting, hopefully the rainy season will allow us to understand more of the structure and how much it will extend. We know that it can extend at depth toward towards north and quite that shallowly, but quite thick towards west. The south is a bit uncertain and much larger than we thought initially at the end of 2019 before COVID. So with a bit of luck, we can probably add another 3, I would say, maybe a bit more. But that's not the end of the potential of the area before we move to the engineering and the benefits of the product. We just discovered, we didn't discuss about that, but I assume you saw, we just did not even a month ago, I would say, or it's around a month, a new discovery. It's called Kelkaya Village. We call it simplistically Kelkaya, where we had an intersection, an amazing one. It's a bit deeper, but still very, very large. Even if it's at depth, it will be a strip ratio of less than 1:1, so any miner would love it. And there are areas of outcropping, so you can probably make quick cash for a couple of years. And we have an intersection of almost 250 meters. This is phenomenal. I don't know too many people on the hard rock that they can say we have 250. And also it's very interesting, it's upgraded. We know that actually with a bit of luck, we hope it's still a lot of work to be done, but all the preliminary work demonstrated that you can almost increase the grade anything between 70 to 1.5 times. The main question is the yield, So because people criticize and say, well, it's low grade. Well, yeah, but if I bring it to Falchani grade and I'm throwing away in the process half of the volume of the rock, everybody will be very happy. It is very huge. I want to give you some numbers for what it means. We call it a dike. It's a very specific way of a volcanic rock. And that one semi-intrusive, call it like that, not in very geological. My geological college will punish me for that, but we have to make it for the rest of the public. And it's a hybrid rock, which is very big. Any kilometer, actually every 900 meters of that specific structure can bring 4.5 million tons of lithium carbonate. So if it's 3 kilometers long, it will be much larger than Falchani. We do not know. We follow it for about 750 meters, but it opens and we'll have some results probably sometime next year that we're going to publish in terms of very crude modeling. But in principle, it's very big. So that's the second target. And we have another target further to the west, about 20 kilometers, somewhere at the border between the districts of the departments of Puno and Cusco, which we believe that is probably twice the size of Falchani. So I'm talking about a district. I'm talking about a new lithium district, untouched. It's like we discovered in 2020 the El Dorados of the United States, Canada, and Australia of the 1800s, But definitely on a much more technological era, where people use much more technology, and it's not so much about an approach of cowboys to, nothing wrong with cowboys, but actually to science and how to get rich. So the discovery of Kelkaya definitely brings a complete factor into the lithium in Peru, because it will definitely be something phenomenal that mankind can explode for many years to come. Look, I cannot say, I do not want to talk about batteries revolution and what's happening in EV. Everybody talks about that, and many people know better than me. But at the end of the day, size does matter, Since dinosaurs, that, well, they did battery, but for a period of almost 100 years, they've been able to contain the planet, so they didn't allow many other people to develop. So that's a long time, 100, and for any other species, So what I can say is the following. Look, Falchani, we know from the crude modeling that we do, it will be probably very well with DRA's help, with a lot of smart engineering contractors, that we can make it very big, Most of the lithium deposits, when they come into production, they are on a level of 10,000, 15,000, 20. You have 25,000 tons of lithium carbonate. It's something absolutely amazing. Capital is big. Is not so simple, and people need money, So most of the company involved in the lithium sector are junior, because we didn't have a lithium sector. We don't have, and unfortunately, there are still the big names of the mining the Anglos, the Rio Tintos, the BHP, they are still not part of this game. We have some companies definitely but are very specialized. Ganfeng in China, we have definitely Albemarle, SQM by far the largest, but they are also very much focused. They moved to hard rock, but most of the production comes from brines. Brines are complicated. It's not only the huge water consumption that sooner or later, I'm not trying to talk against brines. They are very important at this stage of human development of the EV, but it will be a stage where that water consumption will be an issue. So you cannot continually consume 10,000 tons, 20,000 tons to produce a ton of lithium carbonate. It's crazy. We cannot do it. Mankind cannot afford that luxury. So we have to do it differently. And even if it's direct extraction, which is still, we wait to see whether it's working. It's not simple. And let's not open that one because it's probably another 3 podcasts for that. Correct. And but it's mostly the hard rock. The hard Falchani, because it's so big and it's so consistent, it's easy to mine. It's 270 meters thickness. It's 4 times, almost 3 times actually the Statue of Liberty, just to understand how the size of the ore body in thickness. Although we start with a small deposit or the small production of 24,000 tons of lithium carbonate per year, we plan to expand after 6 years to double, 48, and then we go again to 88, and probably plan to do it to 100,000. So to produce 100,000 tons of lithium carbonate of battery grade, don't forget, it's battery grade from a single ore body, it's something that the lithium industry cannot even imagine, So part of our pre-feasibility study that we just started is just to demonstrate to the rest the importance of Falchani. It's not only quality, it's not in a country that is mining friendly, although with some problems lately, but also is the size. Because by producing 100,000 tons of lithium carbonate at today's prices, you pay back your entire capital expenditure in less than 1 year. So it's something that we believe that actually this is where the big mining companies should be attracted as partners or whatever we can do. Because we developed, although we are a small company, a lot of knowledge. We know we have a know-how, probably not at the level that the Ganfengs and SQM, but we pride ourselves that we know what we're doing. Tonopah is exactly the same thing. It's a deposit, although it placed on in the States, I know it's about Falchani, but also we push that production to about 48,000 tons, and we can do it much larger. The simple way, we didn't do it because it's very big for the simple reason that we are worried about the capital expenditure. As a small company, it's very difficult to justify billions. But look, if lithium carbonate prices will stay elevated, and I'm not saying 100,000, 50,000, we are very happy with 25,000. It's nothing wrong with $25,000 because it's by far the most profitable. There is no other commodity where actually you can produce it for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and you can list for 25. Actually, it's a 400% margin business. Look at gold, look at copper. So it's always fractions. So look, Falchani is very important. We can start small. If we'd be big and will be properly capitalized for a producer, not for exploration, we are very well capitalized, but we'll be able to go big from the start. But both Falchani and Tonopah, between the two of them, is somebody will give us, as a result of a good high prayer, the money to do the capital expenditure. In 3 years, we'll be able to produce 150,000 tons of lithium carbonate, which is SQM. We can recreate a new SQM. So scale, it's everything. Quality, it's second to none. Knowledge is there. And we hope that actually, because the main question, I'm sorry, it was quite a convoluted answer, but I wanted to start from Alpha to go to Omega. It was very easy we believe that we can be in production in 3 years in Peru. And the United States, it's as fast as the local structures of power and administration allow to do it. I'm convinced it will go much faster. The United States has to decide. Either they have to wait and be in production in 1,000 years from now, or to try definitely to have a bit of a revolution in the way how the permitting is organized, allowing companies to shorten very much the environmental assessment and all the studies to be able to bring mines in production in 2-3 years, not in 10, which is the usual norm.
Okay. It's a good answer and a fulsome answer. And what I'm hearing from you, although big is beautiful because you've got the option of that, you've also got the option of starting smaller. It depends on, and I guess, Simon, this one's for you, it really depends on who you're able to attract, because there's not that many big balance sheet funders out there. So you've got to be talking their language. You've got to describe and build the opportunity that attractive to them. So you're going to need to know who they are and what they want. Or you can start smaller. You don't have this massive capital expenditure burden, which, small juniors struggle from. It's almost easy to dismiss small companies with massive NPVs, with massive capexes. So you've got to get that balance as you move through the phases too. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but can you sort of describe, maybe a little bit about the sort of decision making around that and the timing of that and how you go about having those conversations?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously we do continue to refine our strategic thinking as events unfold. I think in Peru, as I mentioned, we're well advanced on the EIA. We hope to see some really good progress on that in the next few months here, which will drive our PFS, ideally by the end of Q1, certainly by mid-year at the latest, is how we're looking at it. And then we can be fermenting a mine, as I said. So, lots of, and we're well enough capitalized certainly to take it through the PFS phase. I think for us on both projects, we have no debt. There's no royalties. We've never taken an offtake. And there's companies a lot earlier than us that have, because they've needed to raise capital. I mean, we've been fortunate that we've been well capitalized certainly in the last few years, and obviously markets are tighter again. So you have to protect your capital as a junior player. But I think now is the time. As I mentioned, if you're going to go and the roadmap in the States is very much equity partner. Strategic equity partner, DOE. That's becoming the kind of rule of thumb for the Claystones. So, we certainly are going to go down that road. Why wouldn't we? And I think bringing in the right strategic partner as part of that in the next 6 to 9 months or whatever makes sense. You've seen TM at Clarke, you've seen Sabonye at Pioneer. So, there's a list of who that could be, and we've started to have those discussions. Again, I think in Peru, Laurence mentioned some of the major mining companies. We've had interest from some of those. And again, I think, we even doing things in a relatively small way, as you mentioned, you still need some significant amounts of capital and, some people who are used to the infrastructure needs that you're going to need to put in. So I think, again, as we move forward here over the next 6 to 9 months, and as we hit our milestones in particular, we're going to have more and more interest on that front. Make sure both projects, lithium mining's difficult. Lithium might be the most difficult of all because it's really a chemistry project. And again, that big balance sheet, some of the knowledge about taking these things to like construction will be important.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate the run through, and also the explanation of kind of how you work your way through the system, because it's a difficult market for juniors more broadly. I think lithium is, along with uranium, one of the few shining lights at the moment that people are looking to. So appreciate the update on certainly the resource update and back the how you kind of got there. Stay in touch with us and let us know how you get on as you kind of move through the phases and kind of get stuck into the PFS for sure. And maybe we should talk uranium at some point in the not too distant future. It's getting hot out there.
It is, Matt, and thank you. And we do anticipate, as I mentioned earlier, an updated PA on Falchani in the next few weeks here. Again, that's a key piece of the PFS. So a lot of it's the PFS standards. It will incorporate new results and updated economics and updated lithium pricing. So I think it'll be a really good read. We're excited for it. We'll keep you posted on that. And as you mentioned, we haven't talked uranium, but you see uranium up at 74, 75 bucks a pound. It's definitely a bright light in difficult markets, and we have more and more interest in that. So, we'll keep people posted on that as well.